Today, we're going to take a look at a draft between KT Rolster and HLE in LCK earlier this morning. HLE put together a pretty nice comp, while KT insta-lost the game with two specific picks. Let's take a look. Also, a quick side note, I've started streaming on Twitch, so feel free to come hang out. It's twitch.tv/LOL_squib, and I'll be live later tonight around 7 Eastern Time. Anyways, now let's take a look. HLE first picked Senna. Very good. Obviously an OP champion with infinite scaling, so nothing really to complain about here. The only thing I would have done different is banning away the Smolder. These two are by far the most OP bot laners currently in the meta, so you know KT is going to take that after you pick Senna. So in competitive, when you're on blue side and pick one of these as first pick, just ban the other one. Anyways, KT first rotates Smolder and Lee Sin. Smolder is an easy pick and a good basis for your team comp. Again, this champion is about scaling and getting those stacks, which means you want to build a comp that plays around that as a win condition. Lee Sin does not do that, and as I've said many times before, it's probably the worst jungler in competitive play along with Nidalee. If you fall behind even a little bit, it's impossible to play the game. Combine that with a slower pace of competitive, and the fact that junglers don't usually get a lot of resources, and you have, well, a useless champion. If you want a strong early AD bruiser, always pick Xin Zhao. When you combo Smolder and Lee Sin on your first rotation red side, the game is already looking pretty bleak. HLE answer with Nautilus and Taliyah. This is an okay rotation. The Nautilus is the typical strong pairing with Senna and most likely will be farming, which does actually make it semi-useful. I usually don't like Nautilus because they end up hooking in and insta-dying, but if he farms, he can actually be a decent frontline. The Taliyah pick I'm not really a fan of. There's no point in blind picking mid here. Just take a Lee counter in the jungle that scales well and takes advantage of Nautilus setup. Yeah, Taliyah's a strong pick right now and probably a takeaway from the enemy team, but again, blind picking mid is very dangerous, and not really necessary when jungle position is open. Anyways, KT R3 Rakan, which is very random and doesn't really do anything in this game. Just look at their first three picks here. What are we playing for exactly? We have one hyperscaler in the Smolder, one early game fighter in the Lee Sin, who's going to be useless by the time Smolder is useful, and a random support that doesn't really play to the Smolder win condition. Compare this to HLE's first phase, which is clearly focused on scaling and long-range follow-up with Nautilus. Really bad first phase from KT, but don't worry, it gets worse. They R4 Annie, which is their best pick of the draft. It does well into Taliyah and generally just an underrated pick right now, so that's good to see. HLE round out with Xin Zhao and Aatrox. The Xin is good here because it's just a better version of Lee Sin in every way. Xin wins the early 1v1, is a stronger skirmisher, easier to play, and scales better. Aatrox as a blind pick is very meh and not a great pick, but this game isn't going to be won around top lane, and let's be honest, nobody actually uses R5 for real counter picks in the top lane, so the Aatrox is probably fine. And hey, would you look at that? KT ruined their draft even more with Gnar on R5. Sure, it'll push in Aatrox early game, but he won't ever have actual kill pressure. And Gnar's just kind of a useless champ in my opinion. It's too easy for the enemy team to play around the rage bar, and even here, Aatrox will outscale and be more useful in teamfights. Overall, HLE have built a solid, scaling teamfight comp that has clear ways to play the game. KT has picked completely self-countering themes and random champions with no coordinating synergies. The only chance they have of winning this game is if Smolder gets a random triple kill in the early game, which did not end up happening. But hey, they have Lee Sin, maybe he can win the game. Anyways, thanks for watching, see you next time.